So
Okay.
this is my he's actually a dragon from Australia. People have him as pets. I forget the no, bearded dragon, yeah. But he looks very much like a horned lizard, and they occupy the same niche in their native habitats. And I haven't found a toy horned lizard yet. So he's here to represent the horned lizard. And he's here to remind me that although some of us get annoyed by insects, they occupy a very crucial point in the food chain. We cannot easily turn plants into protein. Plants have proteins in them. In fact, they're the only thing in our terrestrial environments that can turn sunlight into protein. They're the intermediate as sugars. They have these enzymes to do that, which themselves are proteins. So they're the ones taking energy from the sun and pushing it into the food chain. There are mammalian herbivores, but the vast majority of herbivores are insects. And they pass it along to birds and frogs and fish and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So of the hundreds of thousands of insect types in Texas, less than 3% cause problems to humans. Just under 10% are beneficial. And the vast majority I qualify as what I call bird food. They serve some other purpose in the environment. And they are specialists, most of them. 80% of them are specialists. They rely on one or two types of plants. And if those plants are missing, here is where we come in as gardeners. Then those insects disappear. If those insects disappear, the animals that rely on them disappear. We can fight extinction by planting one or two native plants in our garden. Doesn't mean you have to go all native, but something you like, something that looks pretty, something that will benefit water penetration. Native grasses in the landscape, if they're a nice little clumping grass that'll behave itself, it helps water penetration. It hosts different kind of insects that are not going to affect your other plants. In fact, it may feed a predator for a while that can then come back and be ready when you have an infestation in your garden. So that's my little spiel about him. Also, the horned lizard only eats harvester ants. I was giving Fred this the other week. And we have a tendency to kill the harvester ants because we like to have pretty lawns. They cut a little circle around their home, like in the frontier period, how we used to clear out forest right around the cabin so we could see if a bear was coming. But the native harvester ants eat seeds. If you have a ant that is defoliating large plants, that might be an invasive tropical ant, and you should tell the extension about it. Because those ants take in leaves to build a fungus nest, and they eat the fungus.
Are those cutter ants? Or what are they?
Those are tropical leaf cutter ants, and we should not have those. Okay. So what is wrong with this?
It's a skeleton.
Where do or arthropods have their skeleton? On the outside. So you wouldn't see a spider skeleton with ribs, because when you are looking at an arthropod, an insect, a roly-poly, a millipede, you are looking at its skeleton. This drives me crazy. I actually knew a couple of kids in high school who saved a pet tarantula so they could see its skeleton.
I do that.
Okay. So there's three main groups of harmful critters and three main groups of beneficials we're going to talk about. The good guys help pollinate. Predators that help eat the things that we want to get rid of in our gardens. And decomposers that help our compost pile become compost quicker. The bad guys have dangerous stings, but some of those are pollinators. Spread diseases. You think I'd have this like down to heart for, I haven't had a practice. Vince isn't gonna help me either. He does this one too, so.
And eat the plant.
And eat our plants, yes. Ha ha ha. Remember I said 80% of bugs are specialists? This one in. ¿Cómo se dice en español?
Grillo.
Grillo?
Grillo.
Grillo?
Sí.
A good fish bait.
Oh, yeah. In fresh
In
water.
fresh water. we have a common heritage there. I grew up on a creek. So I have a fly rod and tied my own flies and should have brought it in. Usually you don't see a lot of them in our gardens. They're called a grasshopper for a reason. They actually like grass. Toward the end of the year when it gets cold, yes, they will bite you. They have chewing mouth parts. They can bite anything. And just, has anyone ever encountered a bee that was kind of like on its way out and just didn't know up from down? These things can get like that too. They can get a little confused and loopy. So there are generalists. Who can think of another generalist that will eat just about anything?
You're talking about roaches?
Ding, 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 ding. But we consider them in our gardens to be a beneficial. Why?
Do they
Decompose.
Decomposers, excellent. The one exception. You ready with the other camera? No, this is fried. Roaches alemanas, the German cockroach.
Oh, the prolific ones.
What's the bad part about those?
Okay, roaches are actually very closely related to termites, and they have a similar social system in some species. So they will form nests, they will share resources. Yes, good observation, Eric, that you can see the shield markings on the stripes. That's what is a good for determination. The other way to tell is at a very young age, they will have wings. Roaches don't have true metamorphosis. They have incomplete metamorphosis. So they have a nymph and they go through, they just molt and become the next instar. That's what it's called, each shedding for an insect. And the problem with this colonial nature of the German cockroach is they tend to spread disease. They will go into the trash, they will go into our food, and they will swap those germs in between. So can we switch cameras?
Do they have decomposing?
They do when they're outdoors.
Yes.
So here are our Germans when I get in focus. For the folks at home. And see the patterning and also that they are winged at a very young age. All right, done. You can go back. I have a little plastic roach here. Anybody know what the little things on the end of the roach are, on the butt? I don't know if you can see that in the regular camera. Yeah. Yes, it's for the eggs. And the American roaches, what we call the palmetto bugs here, but the problem is in Florida, there's also a true palmetto bug that never grows wings. They will carry a load of eggs around with them on their back until they find a good spot and then drop them. So they're very good mothers. But being generalists is one of the reasons they've been able to survive so long. The other is, who's ever squashed a roach? All right, we got two in the back.
They come back to
I
that.
love to do that.
What do you smell?
Awfulness.
Nastiness. We tend to smell oily things. And they are big, when they've had a good feed, they are big little sacks of fat. So if they go a long time without eating, they've had that all that fat stored up. And that improves their survival rate. All right, enough about roaches.
They're the best thing. They're the best thing for everything.
You can tell I'm fascinated with them. I was totally grossed out with them up north because we had nothing but the Germans. By the way, in Germany, they call them the French cockroaches.
French, they call them the German.
And just like most mosquitoes, most roaches originate from Africa. Okay, let's keep going with the dried specimens. Oh, here we go. So we have our roaches. We also have someone that keeps them in check. Has anyone ever seen something flying around their house, a little black thing? This is a beneficial wasp. Anyone seen aliens? Parasitic wasps will lay an egg on their host and then emerge fully formed because they pupate inside the host. Just like aliens. Out of the host.
So these are beneficial?
Those are beneficial wasps called cockroach killers.
Can you buy them at the store?
Unfortunately, they tend to get stuck inside my house and die, which is why I have 2 dried specimens. I got one just yesterday. When I see them in the house, I do try to catch them and release them. Like, please go out and get more cockroaches.
They're good protein for chickens. I do. I have lots.
Cockroaches are wonderful chicken
They
feed.
are. You should see my chickens when I take on them out the kind. They're like, "Ooh." It's protein for their eggs. They will be frogs. They will be lizards. They say good like frogs, good like that.
All right. You all heard me ask about the stink bugs. We know these are true bugs. When you say something's a bug, we just mean it's small and crawly. We have the green stink bugs, which you'll see a lot in your garden. These love garden plants, particularly tomatoes. And how do they feed?
They suck.
Suckers. They have a hypodermic mouth. This is the brown stink bug.
Are
And
these chinch bugs? They call them chinch bugs?
no, these are a different type of stink bug. You will often see true bugs in black and orange, including on milkweed, including on your vegetable plants. There are just so many different black and orange true bugs. And they can be long and skinny. They can be this true shield shape. This is not a bug, it's a beetle. This is a cucumber beetle. This one's a striped cucumber beetle. They can be green or orange. This one just happens to be orange. They also come as spotted. So if you see a green ladybug, that's no ladybug. There's also an asparagus beetle that looks like this.
The people in Zoom need to see that.
Cucumber /
And
asparagus
they also
beetle.
need to see over there, that little.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring the dry specimens around when they come around. So, sorry, I didn't see Susan, thank you. So this one's for the people online, the cockroach killer wasp. Oh, that's a great picture. And you can see it has a very narrow waist and a very distinctive abdomen. And it is a type of braconid wasp. They do not have a stinger. Instead, they have an ovipositor, which puts the eggs into the host. All right. And the next specimen is ready to go. Is it? Oh, it's coming around. There'll be a next specimen in 3 people. And I have magnifiers around if you need them. If you wear glasses, you just put the magnifier inside your glasses.
There's thousands of cockroaches. How many of those wasps do you need to kill?
Well, it's a bad predator that wipes out its prey. So, they take off a percentage. When we go hunting, we don't wipe out all the deer because then there won't be any deer left, right?
Right.
So with the true bug, you can see the stylet mouth here. And apologize, we're losing legs.
The other direction.
And the patterning for the brown stink bug and the shield-like wings.
Then what do you call it a true bug?
That's the family it's in. Wait. Dimoptera? No, that's earwigs.
The bug family. The true bug family.
I think in English and then look up the Latin.
Okay, that's fine. I was just wondering why you call it a true bug, because
Yeah, that's the family of insects it's in.
the mother of all mothers.
Now, is this parasitic wasp, is that the same one that lays eggs in the caterpillars and the?
It's a cousin. They're all braconid wasps. They're in that group of wasps. Since I brought up Dimoptera and that being earwigs, I do have an earwig. And this is a female, so you can't see the pincers. Some species, the females have reduced pincers. Some species, the females don't have them at all.
Are these the ones that stink also when you?
I haven't had that experience. Earwigs in some cases are decomposers. In some cases, they're predatory. And in other cases, very few of them will eat plants. And the ones that eat plants tend to hang out in flowers and eat the petals.
There's one with a pinches in the tail,
Yes.
and that one stinks when you kill it. Oh man, that's a bad one.
How do they use their pincers? Primarily for defense. And earwigs are incredibly good mothers. The mother will dig a burrow and not only guard the eggs, but she will guard the babies until they go through like their 3rd instar. They have incomplete metamorphosis. And she will not feed in that time. So like a mother octopus who stays with the eggs until they hatch, she will die in that burrow. And she will make the ultimate sacrifice and feed the babies before they leave the nest. Because they often are scavengers as well.
Is it a good bug or a bad bug?
The ones that are decomposers are wonderful. The ones that are predators are handy. The one that hangs out in our flowers, you want to pick those flowers off and throw them in the compost pile, because those will also sometimes be decomposers. You can say, no, I don't want you here. Go eat my compost. And it will say, oh, all right.
Do you have a sample of a gall wasp?
I do not. Gall wasps are very, very tiny. They're in the category of bird food. They do not harm us. They don't really harm the plants. A gall is a structure a plant makes around an insect to, or sometimes a disease, to just isolate that. Plants don't heal, they seal. So that's why you want to make a nice clean cut, because it's easier to seal that wound. When it sees a threat or a perceived threat, it makes basically a little tumor and says, okay, I've sealed that off. I don't have to deal with it anymore. So sometimes it's not an actual threat, but it seals it off anyway. Gall wasps are very common in our oak trees. If you look up in the oaks, the leaves get little galls in them. And the wasp can have many, many life cycles in the same growing season. So people think they have this terrible infestation in their plant, in their oak tree, and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse because they keep getting more and more galls. But they don't really harm the oak tree. They're just using it as shelter and a little bit of food. But they're so small, they don't really drain the tree. And the galls that are persisting from the previous generation are still there, but they're no longer drawing any energy from the tree. Yeah, gall wasps and fig wasps are both like as small as fungus gnats. Who say I had a fungus gnat in their house? I overwater my plants.
Me too.
Was that Zan?
Somebody's not muted.
Well, I don't want to ignore the students that are online just because they're online.
It was me, sorry. But yeah, that happens to me a lot, and I have to like use like the diatomaceous earth
Okay,
and like really dry it out.
I use sticky traps, which I only use indoors, by the way. Why would we not use sticky traps outdoors? They're not selective. You can catch beneficials by accident. Yes, they are often yellow, which is less attractive to beneficials, but you still can just catch random things. I caught geckos in my house with these things.
Yep.
Okay, I don't want to do that.
And a cat.
My hair, then it does not wash out, folks. Yeah, you gotta use an oily substance first. Wait, wash the oil out. Yes, okay.
Cut your hair.
Last resort. Yeah, whoever's on the iPhone, you have to rename yourself. That's part of our security protocol. We have to see your name. Okay. Anybody remember what these guys belong to?
That's a centipede.
It's a centipede. So it's Millipoda and Centipoda. There we go.
That was hard.
Do we want to be putting our bare hands in the soil near these guys?
No.
No, they are
Poisonous.
poisonous. Is
No, they'll bite.
No.
this is poisonous? This is venomous.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I will do anything to get a point across. Yes, I will.
Before I forget the fireflies, the beetle. What is that beetle like?
Oh, fireflies and click beetles that have luminescence to them have a binary liquid. I'm trying to think, was it the third Bruce Willis movie where they had the binary liquid that came together and made the explosion? Die Hardest.
The heart is, which one?
Same idea. You have two liquids that, or like an epoxy, that
Okay.
separate. They don't do anything, but when you mix them, the chemical reaction happens. So these insects have two different glands in their body, and they only mix them when they want to light up.
And they like water, they like moisture.
I don't know what the chemicals are. One of them is called luminol. And we use that in forensic investigations
It's for blood.
to test for the presence of blood.
But here in our area, which plants do they seem to like?
Oh, well, I don't know about click beetles because they tend to be soil insects. I don't know if they're predatory or decomposers. I'd have to look that up. Yeah, they're stuck on their back. They make this clicking noise and they have a hinged shell and they can flip themselves. All fireflies are predatory. And predatory insects, I was going to get to this with the ladybug, they need both their prey and pollen. So you want to let your herbs bloom, not all of them, but at the end of the season, you have your cilantro, and in June, you can't keep it from bolting anymore. Let some of it bolt. In the summer, have an area where some of your basil flowers and goes to seed. Right now, my parsley's blooming. It went through the freeze and it said, "Oh, I'm a biennial. I'm going to bolt now." And I have two milkweeds that I planted right after the freeze. And one of them was covered in milkweed aphid. And I took the lacewing off of it for this class. It's dead now. So that's how impactful these insects are. Yes.
Find the person one more time before I remove them.
The person using the iPhone who talked up just a few minutes ago, you need to go into your settings and change your name to your actual name.
Hayden. That was Hayden.
Hayden,
We need to see his picture.
you need to name yourself because our security policy says that we can't have people on who we don't know who they are. And we're gonna have to boot you. I don't want to do that. So yeah, fireflies are the same deal.
I just wonder what they're here, because they're here, I have my yard, so.
Fireflies are extremely sensitive to pesticides. And they need, in our area, they need certain shrubs to rest on. They're attracted to those scents. So without those native shrubs in the area, and also certain native grasses, they just won't be in that area. So you're lucky to have them. The only places I've seen them in is in the National Seashore, where they preserve native grasslands. So,
I got them in my house.
I'll say, they were in my house this last
Yeah.
week.
So I just wanted, because the dogs love to
You
chase.
must have some natives there.
yeah. So, yeah, if you have some native habitat nearby that you have fireflies, you're very lucky in this area.
In Virginia, you have them all over.
Well, yes, some fireflies are less fussy. The ones back home in PA liked woodlands, and people like trees. We had two species back in PA. One of them ate other fireflies, so the female would mimic the blink pattern of the other one and lure the males in of the other firefly and eat them.
Smart woman.
And then when she actually wanted to mate, she would she would do the blink pattern of her own species. All right. Hold on that one. We were just doing ladybugs. Here's a ladybug you don't want. Now it's changed its color a little bit. It's actually normally a creamy yellow, like a lemon chiffon, but this is a Mexican bean beetle, and it is a ladybug.
And it's a bad bug.
It is a bad bug. Did we get the earwig back? Keep the earwig going. I have labels. I know what's out. By the way, earwigs got their name because in medieval times, people thought they crawled into your ear in your sleep.
Into the wigs. the British.
So we are showing on the microscope cam an example of an earwig in Dermiptera. If I can get it into the camera, there we are. And they have chewing mouth parts, and they can just be predators, decomposers, and this is a female, which is missing the claspers on the end for this species. Thank you, sir.
What's the bad in the Mexican bean beetle?
They eat our plants. They eat anything in the legume species, beans, peas, even mesquite trees. And they are voracious, and they keep going back to the same area. So they will defoliate your crops, and they are why we can't grow soybeans in Texas anymore.
What causes, what's that? Which ones?
The Mexican bean beetle that's
Oh,
coming
I'm
around.
sorry.
And they are now evolving to also like sweet potatoes. And how many of us have those ornamental sweet potatoes, or our neighbors do? So people who are growing the ornamental sweet potato are hosting them, and then they're coming into our vegetable gardens to eat our beets.
How can you tell the difference between that and a good?
Do they sting?
They do not sting, no.
My daughter has some similar to this in Wisconsin, and
Okay.
they sting.
The
How do you tell the
ladybug is more
difference?
round.
These have a larva that is big and spiky. It's got lots of little,
Stripe, is it stripe?
no, it looks like a tiny white porcupine.
Okay.
But they're not like hard spikes, they're like fleshy. So this is the Mexican bean beetle. It's a ladybug that is yellow, and this one's discolored because it's dried. But you can see it is a true ladybug.
That's the Japanese beetle is different too?
Yes, the Japanese beetle is different. The Japanese beetle is a larger scarab, the size of the night flying. This is my. This is what I lose. I lose recall. Chafer beetle, the English chafer beetle that comes into your windows at night. Boing, 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 boing. And both of those can be controlled with milky spore during the cool months. It's a disease, you spread it on your lawn. Japanese beetle is green-headed and like a purpley pink wing cover, and they're both metallic. We have plenty of them in the Northeast. They love roses most of all. They will eat both the leaf and the rose itself. But they will eat just about anything. They are generalists. And both the chafer beetle, the Japanese beetle, and our native June bugs, which are much larger, will have grubs that are in your lawn. The grub is the larva, just like the caterpillar to the butterfly. And you will know you have grubs because the skunks will come along and start scratching up your lawn to eat the grubs. How do we control grubs? Well, they're chicken feed. Chickens love them.
A lot of work.
And again, if you have the English chafer beetle, you can use milky spore in the cooler months. And we don't really want to kill the June bugs because they're native. Good fish bait. Salud.
How do you get rid of the Mexican beetles?
Mexican bean beetle. I've looked this up online. There's two things. Like every insect, let's not use the honeybee as an example. We like honeybees. Let's use a stink bug. Every insect has breathing holes down the abdomen. So you can use any kind of oil. Heck, you can even use cooking oil in a spray to suffocate them.
Can you use soap?
You can use insecticidal soaps. I do not recommend using dish soap. I know that your speaker on Monday did. The reason I do not is if you have indoor plants particularly, they can build up in the soil and kill your plants. I know people who've done it. So from my experiences, using dish soap is not a good idea. The other reason is the current version of Dawn has other anti-grease ingredients that are great for cleaning, but are not so good for your plants. So if you use an old version of Ajax or something like that, maybe. But I also say, what's the application rate? What's the concentration you need? If you can find an extension reference that'll give you those guidelines, you have my blessing.
Are you against it because it's a surfactant? I mean, on the dirt?
No, it's because you don't know the application rate and the concentration. If you can find from any extension anywhere in the country, a proper concentration and how much to apply, you have my blessing. Okay? We need to use research-based information.
The science behind it.
Yeah. And I also don't want to over pollute the environment. And I don't want you killing your plants. I'm looking at, I've got your back here. Okay.
So the oil is the better.
No, not necessarily. It depends on what time of year it is. If you're using a horticultural oil, the best time is when you don't have leaves on the plant because the leaves have breathing holes in them too. This time of year, your best choice would be an insecticidal soap. If you really want to nuke the hell out of it, you can get one that has spinosad added to it, which is a natural neurotoxin that's derived from bacteria. But you may not need that. You can use an insecticidal soap that is safer. Hint, 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 hint. See what I did there? We're not supposed to use like brand names, but
Right.
um,
It's safer.
I get some knowing looks from the room, and other people can explain it to their neighbors. I'm even getting annoyed looks from the room too.
She looked at me, I said, don't ask me, ask that direction.
But yes, soaps will clog the breathing holes, and for certainly indoors, if you cannot find your geraniol-based kitchen spray for a roach here and there, you can grab a can of Pam and spray it with the Pam and then clean the Pam up later. I've done it more than once. Why? It's safe to consume, so it's darn safe to use in the house.
Will soap kill beneficial insects if you decide?
Yes,
to-
any kind of thing that'll kill a bad insect will kill a good insect. So that's why we do targeted sprays exactly where we want to. We don't spray when the wind is blowing because we don't want drift going to where it is. But what it won't kill is these guys. We like spiders. They keep the bed bugs down, especially anything that flies. Although I have had a spider catch some things in its web and just go, I don't want that.
They're smart.
While insects have the breathing holes down the abdomen, spiders have a lung that is up and under their abdomen. It is like trying to catch the vent in the Death Star. So when we do want to control an arachnid, such as spider mites, our only choice is to use a neurotoxin. And the safest one we have is neem oil. Neem oil has its drawbacks though, because it strips the leaves of its natural cuticle. So we use it on cloudy days, we use it in the cooler months, or we're giving our plant sunburn.
Neem is not BT though, right? I mean,
No.
But it's, I mean, they're doing studies to compare them. BT overseas in the UK, they don't like neem oil because it creates birth defects.
Neem oil is a toxin.
Yeah, and
Just because it's natural does not mean it's not toxic. It's very toxic.
it's prohibited in the UK.
You do not want to be eating this stuff, having it on your skin, breathing it. You want to protect yourself when using neem. In fact, it says on the bottle, don't get it on your skin. The instructions for neem, I usually bring them with me. They're like this long. It's really dangerous. But of all the things that are really dangerous, it's the least toxic. When we get to chemical, I didn't write this on the board. Least. There's my dysgraphia right there. I will skip the letterhead and go back. Toxic first. We work our way up to protect our pets, to protect our kiddos in the yard, to protect the neighbor's cat, to protect wildlife.
So back to the horned toad, if we were in the hill country and we caught 3 or 4 horned toads, can we take them to our garden?
We need to leave them in the environment. They are critically endangered.
Right.
They
but
need
we're not
to-
gonna kill them.
They
We're
need
gonna
to
use
be
them.
where they have their food source and where they're gonna make more.
Because they were like, they only a certain amount of
fine.
They only eat those harvester ants. If they take them to your yard and you don't have the harvester ant, they'll starve.
And people are killing them.
And that's how they died off in the first place. People are like, oh, there's this cute little lizard that doesn't really fight back, except for sometimes it'll squirt blood out of its eye. Its first defense is what? To roll on its back. Ah, I'm dead, you don't want me. When that doesn't work, it rolls back over and shoots blood out its eye.
They're also building the homes, I mean, all the homes that they built.
But people took them as pets and took them out of the environment, so they weren't making more. And that's why they're critically endangered. There are actually 5 different species too. So if I have one of this and one of that, I'm not gonna get more. Because they're not gonna breed with each other. I'm sorry, I'm yelling. I'm giving poor Tom a headache here. I'm deaf, so nobody else can hear me. Sorry. All right, while we're on ants, how many of us have stepped on a fire ant's nest?
They crawl all over my-
Yeah,
How do you get rid of them, by the way, in a garden, in a raised bed?
and fire ants in your garden. First thing you want to do is try to repel them.
Try everything. So
No gasoline, but if you have a torch, you can open the nest up and burn them. Don't burn your raised bed. If it's made out of wood, that could be a bad thing.
Granules or
What kind of granules?
fire ant granules.
You can't put Amdro in a garden.
You cannot put Amdro in a garden. That's too toxic, least toxic first. So Fertilome, there we go, making name brand things, does make a spinosad one, which is less effective. Then what I like to do, this is my favorite one. After a rain, smack the mound with a shovel. When there's a rain, they move everything up towards the surface. Let's use their behavior against them. This is biological then. Okay. And get 3 gallons of water, big old spaghetti pot, boiling. And dump it on them with a scoop of tea kettle, dump, keep it going. Another biological in the cooler months, beneficial nematodes will eat their babies. You don't reproduce, you don't survive. Cool and wet, nematodes need that. You can order them online, or sometimes the local garden centers carry them. You have to ask.
They do, and put them in your fridge. For a little bit.
Last one, mechanical. You can open the nest and dump diatomaceous earth in there. Food grade.
We've actually had good luck with grits, putting grits in and feeding them grits, because apparently that kills them. 'Cause they're not moving, they're just gone. So.
Chemical that you can use short term if they're in the lawn, not your vegetable garden. Boric acid. This can be, borax. You can, unfortunately though, overdose your mesquite tree or whatever has roots into that area with boron and give them boron poisoning. So you get away with it once. Trace elements have to be in trace amounts, or you will poison the plant, whatever the nutrient is. So when I say you get to do it once, you get to do it once ever. Boron is a metal. It will stay in the soil forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. If you have an oak tree nearby, oak trees do absorb them. In fact, if you fertilize your garden with oak leaves, sometimes you can even get to boron toxicity with that. But generally, oak leaves do not do this because they biodegrade very slowly and they act as a very good organic matter in our vegetable gardens.
So the half-life is very short then.
How do oak leaves affect the pH? I know this is not biology, but
They're in neutral because even though they have tannic acid in them, it leaches out very quickly. And the alkalinity of the parent material in the soil, the rock that's under there somewhere, although Texas is mostly sedimentary, eventually just comes back in. There's just so much clay that, you know, you might get a month of acidity and then you're alkaline again.
okay.
Okay, still working through our dried specimens. I got one predator I'd like to show you. This is a tiger beetle. This sucker has really big mandibles. So what do you think he eats?
Bugs, bigger bugs.
Other bugs, anything he wants. This guy lives in the soil and is a predator. So he's a good guy. Flip over. Nobody wants to see your legs. Come on. You will see he's very big and muscular too. And by the way, insects do have muscles, and their muscles pull on their skeleton just like our muscles pull on our skeleton, except for their muscles go and touch the outside.
Looks like a click beetle.
They do. They look a lot like their prey, with bigger jaws. Switching gears, because that's what I've got left in the dry specimens. Are moths friends or foes?
Foes.
The difference between a moth and a butterfly is one flies in the day and one flies at night. In fact, there weren't any butterflies in the fossil record until bats came around.
And butterflies are food for, no, it's.
They evolved to avoid the bats.
Precisely. So a butterfly is just a moth that flies in the daytime. And the skipper butterflies,
The ones that migrate.
come with me to the wall, camera. Skippers. The long tail skippers over here somewhere. Here. The skipper butterflies are very moth-like in their appearance. And they're considered the more primitive butterflies. The long-tailed skipper is native to our area and it likes our beans.
And these are friends or foes?
The leaf roller is a friend. If you have leaf rollers and they get to the point that you have too many of them in your beans, bring some here and release them in the butterfly garden on a legume, or put them in a jar and feed them how much you want to give them, not how much they want to take. Because all of our butterflies are becoming less common and they have a better survival rate when they're artificially reared because spiders will eat them. You know,
Birds.
Yeah. Wasps love caterpillars. So give them a break. And if you just have one or two leaf rollers, go, oh, I have a tailed skipper in my garden. Cool.
What do they look like? The leaf rollers? Because there's many other caterpillars. There's a whole bunch of different types. So what are we looking for?
I have pictures in my phone. I will try to find it after class. If I try to find it now, I'll be just sitting there going and wasting time. So this is a yellow striped armyworm moth. So as moths go, this is not a good one. Why do they call them army worms?
They're soldiers.
What do soldiers do?
They get in a regiment and go and eat.
They march in a group. Exactly. These guys, they are laid together, and sometimes they will disperse, but sometimes they will go to one spot, eat everything in sight, go to the next thing, eat everything in sight, go to the next thing, eat everything in sight. The caterpillar is long and gray with black stripes. And you will know when they are coming because they all come together. They will cross pavement together and you will see them coming. And they eat the plant off at the base. And when it falls over, then they can keep eating it. So sometimes if they've had enough, they will move on and just leave all your plants cut off at the base. The other animal that does that is a harvester mouse.
Oh, yeah, they're-
So when your plants are cut off at the base, you don't know if you've had army worms or harvester mice. You have to monitor. If it gets cut off at the base once, you don't know. If it gets cut off at the base for a month, you have a mouse. Because the army worm moths keep moving.
But the ones that migrate in
Yep, I've
Texas,
seen them.
the ones that migrate, they go to the swallows from Capistrano. They come to Texas, which is in November, because we're coming up in November. It's a whole onslaught of moths. They look like butterflies. But they're moths. What are they, are they headed to the bats?
Do they fly at night or what are
No,
you
they're
looking
during
at?
the day, the ones that you go to Texas, especially going to San Antonio.
Well, if they're flying during the day, they're butterflies. They're not moths.
Well, there are one or two exceptions that fly in the early morning.
Yes, they're actually moths.
To every rule, there is an exception, including this one.
Well, I say this because they get into aircraft.
I'm not sure, but they're probably sphinx moths. The larger sphinx moths, which are down this end with the big butts and small wings that look like little helicopters on the upper right. A lot of them are native. Some of them have clear wings and can be easily mistaken for hummingbirds, the way they hover. Just like a little hummingbird. In fact, there is a hummingbird clearwing moth. That's where the tobacco and tomato hornworm moth belong. But there's also beautiful moths in that group that feed on just the willow, the desert willow tree, which is not a willow tree, but has leaves like a willow and beautiful pink flowers. There are dozens of sphinx moths in Texas. That collection is about, I'd say, a half to a quarter of them. This is a Gulf fritillary butterfly. Obviously, I cannot match the collection on the wall, maybe someday. But I don't travel to the tropics to get those blue morphos down the end. That's not going to happen. I grow butterflies in my garden. I garden for two things, for food and for wildlife. And
So is it a friend or a foe?
this is a friend. They feed on passion vines. There are 6 different species of butterfly in our area that feed on purple passion vines. If you grow a red one, that's poisonous to them. Some of the tropical passion vines, no good. They are great pollinators. And
Are most butterflies good pollinators?
yes. Butterflies need either flat flowers that are easy to land on because they're clumsy flyers. They have troubles with high winds because they've got these big sails. So they need a shelter. they will also pollinate tubular flowers. But again, they need a good landing spot. And different size butterflies will come to different size flowers. So a lot of your herbs will attract, with the tall spiky type things, will attract smaller butterflies. I got it.
Got it.
Showing now on the webcam, this is an army moth. And you can see the markings are very distinct. It's in the hawk moth group. I have it in a bag because it was, if you can see all the specks, it was shedding its scales like crazy.
We use those to feed the chickens.
Yeah, and the army worm is a long gray striped caterpillar, almost looks greasy. It's skinny. And they march in groups and are very destructive.
They eat anything?
Generalists, yes, and they eat the plants off at the base and then eat what they want to and leave the rest. And this one was the tiger beetle, which is a predator.
Good luck.
And this is a good guy, and check out those jaws. And look how muscular the legs are. This is a strong insect. And they have muscles just like we do, except for their muscles go from the inside out or across from skeleton to skeleton, because their skeleton's on the outside.
Where do they lay their eggs, Beth?
These guys lay their eggs in the soil. They are completely, their entire lifetime is in the soil. The army worms will lay their eggs close to the ground on plant matter. And then they hatch out in mass and they either disperse or travel as a group, like the swarm.
Devour. They disperse or devour.
Yeah. And it's just luck of the draw, which they will do. And that's it for the dried specimens. Now we're getting into the live stuff. Let's see what's first on the menu. Now, this is something I don't even have to put in a bag. You should be able to tell me what this is. I've been going to Fred first for everything. Let's do it the other way around. Susan, what have we here? Yep. All right, pass it to the next person, see if they know.
Is this a good one or a bad one?
It's a good one.
It's a good one. Good deal. Let's see it.
It's on the floor.
Oh, it's on the corner.
I saw the request for magnifiers. They're not spores. We're doing insects this time around. They're eggs. Lacewing eggs. Melissa had.
Need the prize.
Take your pick.
Oh.
Now you get one.
What? Oh. Well, with mine are.
Yeah, I have one on my bench.
Okay, and what was it?
Nice one here.
All right. What do we have here? Oh, these need a bag. I will be more careful about transferring some of the other subjects. These aren't going to run away quite as fast. I'll see. Let's start in the corner this time. I'm being really annoying. Yes.
What are they?
I don't think that's really close.
And the slider didn't close properly.
What are they?
Gonna have to find it.
Here, I have a binder clip here.
Thank you. We have a fail bag. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, I don't want it to come out and
All right, we're not going to Melissa twice.
Are they on the side of it? Oh, no, they have long, little.
Oh, no, I have binder clips too. All right, this sample is, they're microscopic, so you're not going to see the insects. Well, I should say you're not going to see the arthropods, hint, 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 hint. But you can see the good and the bad. These are the same species, tomato, marigold, and basil, without damage and with. Do not let these out.
You can't see it. It's gonna have to be under it. There you go. Now they must see it. It's too close. I was trying to get them to see the little.
Oh, I see. You need a dark
Yeah,
background.
maybe it is, but that's too close.
So then you lift it up or change the focus.
Yeah.
So these are spider mites?
You can see them there, Ben.
There.
So these are lacewing eggs, and they are on a stalk because they're so predacious, they will eat each other if they find each other. And also, they're so predacious that I'm keeping them with bad bugs, so if they hatch out while I'm doing this program, they will eat that and not each other.
Or in the middle, so you get to see.
Lace eggs. But make sure it goes back in the right box.
There's a bunch in there.
I have my to save space in my all container garden because I live in an apartment. And my landlord at least lets me use the leaf line. I have a drip line that faces south. Hello, dreamland.
These are subterranean?
Those are soil termites. And they live in between the stacks in my stack pots. I had just put fertilizer in between and they went food because I use all organic fertilizer. So they apparently like chicken manure.
It's a fertilizer. It's fertilizer.
Who do we have here?
Anything else coming down?
Uh-huh.
Nope.
These are mostly harmless. And if you're a Douglas Adams fan, you get that reference. So I'm not even scrambling with these. I'm taking my good old time. They will feed on oleander, but they do not prefer it.
Yes, and I don't know what it is. Spider mites, I think. Oh, I thought you gave them to me.
No, it's coming this way.
And most of them have actually crawled all around the container looking for something else to eat. Because they do not prefer oleander.
Can you put online viewers back in the classroom?
Oh, yeah, still on the microscope.
Yes, not. Yay, thank you.
Bigfoot.
You got the last one,
No, yeah,
so
the bag didn't come this way.
choice for the spider mites?
Oh.
Okay, give you another shot. They're little, use the magnifier. Excellent. Who's the sticker? We never ask for stickers. Oh. Where are you, you little buddy? I know you're in here somewhere. There you are.
Yeah, I'm using the 20 times.
Yeah. I want to see the Spider-Man.
Oh, you got up. We'll come back around. Gotcha. Now we put your food back. This one's a predator, so I had to package it with food. So ignore the little things, that's its food. And look for the slightly bigger thing. And we're having bag malfunctions again, but I have clips up here. So we're looking at that one. And the sticker words start with Arthur. So keep it to yourself, you two.
No pressure.
All right, coming to the microscope, we have a soil critter. And they're mobile. Let's change the focus. There's one. Let's not have so much glare. That's a problem with plastic bags. But we really don't want to let these guys out. And dudes that move.
It's eligible for a prize.
Okay. Okay, thank you. These are soil termites, if I can get them to play along and the bag cooperate. There he is. Very active little buggers. And they are social animals. They have a hierarchy. And they are close relatives of termite, of cockroaches rather. But they have their own order. They have their own grouping. And Mary Helen looks disgusted. All right. I don't know how I'm gonna get them back in their container, so I think Laura, I'm gonna give you your binder for that, but I'm gonna use one of mine to keep these in here because I don't know how I'm going to get them back in their container now that they're out. You get in there and chill, guys. You're too active. Okay, lesson is do not buy cheap HEB bags. Get actual brand name bags.
We took a spider nose.
Pardon?
Are these the spider mites?
Yes.
What are we supposed to
So
look
here's
for?
healthy comparison versus infected.
Yeah, but you don't, you can't see the spider mites.
No, you can't. They're microscopic.
Oh, no wonder.
I was looking for them really hard.
They were looking for the spider mites real hard.
And that's why I had to give you a comparison. So with spider mites, we're looking for the damage. I don't know, there's this one comedian that's like, every time you get in a car accident, you just want to come up to your friends and say, look at the damage. That's what we're doing with spider mites. We're looking for the damage. Laura's learning that on the fast track. You will see curled leaves. You will see browning. So here we go with spider mite. We're looking at healthy tissue.
So how do you detect whether it's spider mites or disease?
That's hard. Which is why you take pictures and ask somebody.
Okay.
And sometimes it can be a nutrient deficiency. There are nutrient deficiencies that cause leaf curl and marginal leaf burn. Marginal leaf burn happens in potassium deficiency because you have poor water flow. It happens in magnesium deficiency. It also happens in spider mites.
What exactly is this example we've lost track?
That is a predator. Its prey is also in there.
What's the name of it? There's one tiny spider, but there's.
These little things?
Those little things are lace bugs that are its prey. This is the predator.
And the predator's name is?
We're waiting to see.
We're
if
waiting to see if anybody can
out.
figure it out.
It is the one that covers itself in its victims.
Yeah.
It is a trash bug, which is a type of lacewing native to this area. Yep, that's a lacewing larva. So anyway, this is the non-damaged tissue for comparison with damaged tissue from spider mite. You will not see the spider mites themselves. You will see, oh my God, look at the damage. And here's the best example of the damage, if I can get it underneath. Everything is opposite in this micro. That's a great picture right there. See the browning, see how the leaves are yellowed and skeletonized. It looks a lot like a nutrient deficiency,
But it's a bug.
but it's from an arachnid, which means you cannot use most horticultural oils or safer soap. You have to kick it up a notch and go to neem oil or spinosad.
What about
Depending on-
whitefly? What do you use for whitefly?
Whitefly you can use like you use any other insect, but the best thing to start with whitefly is to plant marigolds near your plants that are susceptible in the first place. Peppers and tomatoes, plant marigolds. They don't like it. They don't like the smell of marigolds.
Neither does my
I got them
wife.
on a Turk's cap. They've gotten on a Turk's cap and they're not responding to needle oil.
Yeah, whiteflies hang out in the cotton crop. And cotton is a hibiscus just like Turk's cap is. So that makes perfect sense.
Okay, thank you.
And they just
Take your
harvest
badge.
the rock,
Take your badge.
Next on the microscope, we have milkweed aphids. There are some winged individuals in this group. And the winged individuals mean they have exhausted their food source and are about to move on. The non-winged individuals of the milkweed aphid are orange. And those are all female and born pregnant. They only make these winged individuals when they need to reproduce, and some of those are males. So this is a species that for the most part has gotten rid of the men. Aphids and scale bugs are the Amazons of the insect world. Pardon?
Did you say they're born?
They're born pregnant. In fact, those babies inside them have their grandbabies inside them.
Oh.
It is.
Wow.
So do we.
It is. Well, our female offspring form their eggs while we are pregnant with them, and can have chemical exposures to whatever we are exposed to while we are pregnant.
No, look at it.
And I probably should put that back in its container. That's easy to put back. So aphids reproduce very quickly. The process is called parthenogenesis, and it is named after the Parthenon. Athena was born without the permission of Hera. She leapt from a thought that Zeus had out of his head. And it's not just bugs that do this. There are some frogs that do it, and there are some lizards that do it. All right, where's the aphid one?
You're right here.
Yeah, the container.
I don't know. Do you have a label?
Yes, I do. Milkweed aphid, here we go. The idea is to use mostly reusable containers here. Whether I'll get the bugs back in is
Yeah,
another
that's
story.
good. That's
But the milkweed aphids themselves are a little bit
I don't want to take it.
done, so we'll put that bag back there.
I don't want to take them home.
What do we have here? I need to know who's in there because some of these will stay.
No, it's the burger on it.
You need the light back on?
That's very reassuring.
You want the light back on, Beth?
I used an abbreviation. I don't remember what's in here. Oh! They're harmless. Harmless, 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 harmless. Cute as a button.
Here's a colorful bug.
It is a bug.
Yep. I haven't come to this side in a while. Susan, take a stab at it. While that's going on, I'm going to come back to the microscope and show the people at home a really cool little predator. This is a trash bug, which is our native lacewing larva. And I'll flip her over and show you the other side. Unfortunately, there's lots of layers of plastic in between, but I'll refocus and do my best.
Because you get all that dead stuff.
Maybe if I turn the light down, it won't be as bad with the glare.
Yeah, right. That's what made you feel.
If you were a fan of the Firefly series, this guy is the Reaver. He decorates himself with the shells of his victims. Maybe I'll just open the bag and go down through because nobody's going to jump out of here.
Put it on the table. There you go. You're getting there.
That's what all that white stuff is.
Yep, those are dead carcasses of his victims.
And how does he attach them?
They have a silk-like spit. So he just licks them and sticks them.
Wow,
Lick and stick.
lick and stick, yeah. That's neat.
And he's probably hungry, so I'll put him back in his bag with more victims. Okay.
Where'd you get those from? Where'd you get this junk bug from? Around here or?
He was in my garden. He was on the milkweed. He's the one I took off of the milkweed, and now my milkweed's dead. But I'm feeding him lace bugs. And he's not too happy about it. Oh, by the way, I say he, but larval organisms do not have a gender. It's an it. It's just that
When does the enzyme occur that makes, you know?
they gain gender during their pupal stage.
Okay.
In some insects, it's hereditary. In most, it is environmental.
Right, so okay, so the enzyme should be inhibited then.
What on earth?
But-
Oh, I had a spill. I had to trap this organism because they like to fly around. And I think the food might have gotten everywhere. And it might have drowned the specimen. Hello. Come in here. Or the specimen escaped. The old saying, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. Well, I put an experiment out, had a ketchup packet and a Rudy's barbecue packet. And the local flies prefer barbecue. They're spicy
Yay,
flies.
yes.
But unfortunately, didn't actually catch any of them.
Texas bug.
So this is now trash.
You're trying to catch a
Unless
fly?
you want some barbecue.
So I was, and I didn't get a toy fly out because I thought I had one. I really thought I had one in there. But flies have extremely good eyesight, and they can sense air currents, which is why they're so hard to slap.
Watch when they're feeding, when they're moving their legs, and you can tell.
They do jump back when they're about to fly and then fly forward. So if you want to swat a fly, you need a swatter that has air come through it so they don't poof too much air at them. And you need to come from the behind because when they jump back, you have a better chance of hitting them. And you need to, they see motion better than they see objects. They have kind of like a mosaic type of vision. They don't have a sharp focus. The only insects that have really sharp focus are the mantids, and this poor specimen has been
The dragonfly.
dragonflies. They're predators. They've been around for many generations, and they've had time to really hone their senses. So we know how insects see. They have compound eyes. How do they smell? Oh, wait, no. I mean, how do they smell things in the environment? With their
They have antennas.
with their antenna. What else do they sense with their antenna? What other senses?
Light? No.
Light was with their. What are the 5 basic senses, guys? Let's go back to kindergarten.
Hearing.
Sight.
Feeling. Feeling.
Taste and
Smell.
what are these for? Touch, feeling. They feel around, right? Especially if you're under the ground. Some insects, butterflies, and while we're back on the fly, can also taste with their feet. If I'm a letter butterfly, I have to make sure that I'm on the right plant to lay my eggs so that my caterpillars will have the right food. Okay. So every time a fly lands on you, they are tasting you. How do flies feed?
Ooh, they break you down.
What kind of mouth parts do flies have? Sucking, but it's not a stylet unless it's a biting fly, right? Let's look like a horse fly. So flies, they have digestive enzymes in their stomach But like, let's say it's landing on dog poop. It's not picking up the dog poop with mouth parts and then swallowing it to digest it. So it has to liquefy it first. They feed like butterflies. They suck things through a straw. And because of that, a lot of them are actually pollinators. There are a lot of plants that smell like dog poop. There are a lot of plants that smell like rotting flesh. How many of us have a Stapelia gigantea? The giant corpse plant. It's got a beautiful flower, but it smells like rotting flesh. So what flies do is they and they wait a minute and then they lick it up. When they land on you, they're drinking sweat because salt is rare in the environment usually. Here they just go to the beach.
Now, I got some of those little bitty green metallic looking flies all over my milkweed.
Okay, if it is a itty bitty metallic fly with a skinny body, that is a long-legged fly. It's a good guy with a predatory larva. Another good guy is an itty bitty fly, or if they get as big as a bumblebee, different species. The one that looks like a bumblebee is actually has an aquatic larva. That's a rat-tailed fly. But the little bitty ones that they hover, that's my favorite insect, guys. I love all insects, and this is my absolutely favorite one, okay? The adult is a pollinator, and the larva is a predator. That's the one that Kate said looked like a little neon green booger. It's the same color as Arthur's mask. That's what the maggot looks like. It's smaller than a grain of rice, but bigger than a sesame seed.
What's the name of it?
Hoverflies. Serifid flies is the technical schmectical.
They're about that big.
Yeah.
I get them every year at the garden, and then they're just covered on they're like little tiny flies, they're metallic green, and there's like a gazillion of them sitting on the leaves.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, we start having trouble.
Those are long leggers, yeah. Now, if you get a metallic fly that's the size of a normal house fly, those are blowflies. And they're bad because they spread disease. They love our food, they love dog poop, and they love trash, and they love rotten flesh. Who knows why they're called blowflies? Close.
How they eat.
When they get out of their pupal stage, she was so close, I'm just going to give it away. Judy, you almost nailed it.
But she still gets a sticker.
Yes, she does. So when they come out of their pupal stage, their head is kind of like caved in. And they have to put air into their head like the stalk-eyed fly in the tropics. They have to blow their head up so that their eyes are positioned properly.
Wow.
Is that right?
I feces you not.
You never did show up.
That I'm saving for later.
Later.
I did not forget.
We lost track. What are we looking at here?
I get it.
Nobody's figured it out yet.
Well, there's like a little one.
There are small
I haven't seen that yet.
bugs in there that are not true bugs. But I'll give you a hint. They move like this, and they are related to this guy. Who knows what this pin is? It's not really rainbow normally. That's just to be decorative. There's two kinds in our area. One makes a whistle. I can't whistle right now. I'm too dry.
A leaf hopper.
Yes. The bag is leaf hoppers. It's a particular kind of leaf hopper that makes a little foamy nest for himself.
Oh, the spittle bug.
Spittlebug. Get that woman a sticker.
Yeah.
Yay.
Good job.
And there's one in the bottom of the cup. You can pass the cup around that still is in the foam nest.
And these are good bugs or bad bugs?
Okay.
These are good bugs or bad bugs?
These are adorable bad bugs.
Oh, goodness.
They are suckers. They will suck on your plants and they transmit plant diseases as adults. When they hop from one plant to another, if they've been feeding on a diseased plant when they were babies, they will transfer that disease to another plant. So now we come back to our IPM. They're cute as a button. We think they're cute. We like them. Observe and monitor. Do I have a lot? I have 5. Is 5 enough to cause an infestation? There's 4 in the bag and 1 in the cup.
It could be. I don't know.
It depends on how many babies they have, right? So, cultural, cleaning up, mechanical. I just cut all of them out of my garden. Am I going to be putting them back? No. They're cute, but if I eliminate them from the environment, I've just eliminated the possibility of them making more. So I've stopped it right there because there weren't a lot. I took care of them. And even though they're cute, I might keep them as a culture in a petri dish somewhere, but I'm not putting them back out in the environment. So they feed on members of the aster family, sunflowers, things like that. So I stuck a senecio in there, which is in the aster family. It's succulent. They can stay in that bag for their entire life cycle.
What do you do for an infestation?
Just like any other insect, you go to the insecticidal soaps and horticultural oils. But with this case, I was able to just cut them out before I even need that.
So these are in order of what you would do.
Correct.
The last resort is chemical.
Correct. All right, let's keep it moving. I already did him. Okay. I just put him back to seeds. Oh boy. Now we need the good bags. Tom, can you give me an extra hand?
Sure.
And I'm gonna need you to close on it really quick. Go.
Oh, I know, I have him in my house.
Her.
Yellow jacket.
Oh,
No,
No?
The wasp. but-
it's a wasp. And this is the most docile wasp we have down here. But even so, she's not happy. And we have another kind of wasp that's a close cousin who's much more aggressive that I will now circulate.
Wasps are good bugs, right?
Wasps are good. Why?
Because they're predators.
Predators. They eat spiders. And I had a terrible black and brown widow infestation in my area, and they didn't go away until I had wasps. I have these guys. I have black and brown mud daubers. I have blue mud daubers, and these guys are taking care of my widow. I do not have this wasp. This is normally red with black wings. Again, discolored because it's a dried specimen.
So are they like the hoverflies?
These are both the same kind of wasp in name, but one is brown and yellow and the other is red and black.
So they're not hoverflies?
These are not hoverflies.
Didn't see
They
that.
don't sting, but they think.
Is that the one that was?
Hoverflies cannot sting. Things that can sting are things that are in ant, bee, and wasp family,
didn't see it again.
They look like wasps, don't they?
which is the membrane wing family,
And these are good.
which
These are
is
pretty-
Hemiptera.
Do they sting?
No, Hemiptera is half
It
wing.
looks, look, oh yeah, it's shooting the stinger. It's shooting that.
She is
stinger.
not happy.
No. Can you find the leaf one? For the leaf cover, I can't find it. I can't see it. I see a bunch of seeds, but I don't see it.
Yeah, they look like little frogs.
Oh,
Little, would be Rana in español?
Rana or yeah, or sapo. Sapos are toad.
I one time messed up and said Aranya instead of Rana, which was,
There's a spider.
yeah, that's a spider. I was like, ¿dónde?
I did not see it.
Son cuatro.
You thought there were 4 of them in there?
I know there are 4 of them. I put them in here.
They're out, they're loose. They got away. Somebody's
Well,
gonna
that
take
was,
them home.
you saw the one that was in the bottom of the cup.
Yes, I did. There was a tiny one.
Yeah, they're that
They're
small.
that small. Okay, but I could not see your live one.
Maybe in the fork of that.
Okay, let me-
So we'll take this one in the bottom of the cup. Because he's the easiest to see. Again, it's a nymph. Camera, please.
Could they have been crushed, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
There's nothing moving in here.
We have a spittle bug, also known as a frog hopper. He's a kind of leaf hopper, and this is the early stage nymph. And they make this bubble nest to protect themselves.
Is that in focus?
Yep. So you can see the 2 eyes through the spit. If I take a paper clip, maybe I can move the nest away. You can see the dude in there. See, he's real tiny, just a baby. These guys hatched out less than a week ago. That's as good as it gets. You can see his legs and his eyes. And they have back legs that are springy and can hop like grasshoppers and fleas. And they are closely related to cicadas. And they have sucking mouth parts, and as adults, they can spread diseases for plants, not for people.
I think I found them. I need them, like those little white things.
Yeah,
Are those them?
that's an old bubble nest. It's hardened up. It gets like a calcium crust almost, but it's protein. Back they go, and I'll know the one that's. Anybody want to grow a Palafoxia? It's a native plant that grows in sand or potting mix. And is a good butterfly nectar plant, but it gets like 4 or 5 feet tall and self-seeds. So if you have a natural area for butterflies, it's a great plant. Bees and flies will also feed on it, but otherwise, you don't want these seeds. Anyone? Bueller? Nope. Okay.
All I have is clay.
That's a hard no right there.
Beth, what bug was in the bag with those seeds?
That was a frog hopper. It also was in the bottom of that cup. It was a spittle bug.
Okay.
Frog hopper or leaf hopper?
Well, frog hopper is the specific name, leaf hopper is the group.
Okay.
Judy will take the seeds.
They will not grow in clay.
Are they invasive?
No, because they're native, but they are aggressive. Oh, here's another one I'm gonna need a spotter. This is not dangerous, but it's active.
I'll open.
Yeah, I wanna go all the way to the bottom. This one's also gonna be angry.
Dragonfly. No, he's dead. He's not moving.
That's because he's dormant.
Okay.
He's been chilled. I said chill. So they go to sleep.
How do you get him dormant?
Cold.
Okay.
You keep them at 40 degrees, so they're not frozen. but they go into a stasis. Oh boy. I did have a dried specimen, but you see what happened when I kept it in the bag, and it is too large to keep in most of the containers I have. I now have bigger containers, maybe we'll be. This one I did not kill. A colony of ants found him and attacked him. And I know it's a him because it has claspers on the end of the tail to hold the female. Have you ever seen dragonflies fly in pairs for the mating flight? The male will grab the female behind the head, and they curl their tails up around each other. And then the female will dip into the pond and lay her eggs in water. A lot of insects have aquatic larvae and nymphs. I swear it isn't dead, or I would have put it in with more prey if I thought it was going to have a problem. It is twitching occasionally. Remember that dragonflies have been around for hundreds of thousands of years. They have a neat adaptation where their wings are stuck off to the side here. But check out those eyes. Are those not the most
Sexy eyes.
360-degree vision practically? And if you go up to a dragonfly or a mantis, they're intelligent. They will interact with you. You can move your head to different directions and they will mimic you. They also have, I hope you will tolerate this, their name, it means big tooth. They have a large lower lip for scooping up prey. And when they are a larva, they can extend this thing and it has jaws on the end of it for catching prey in the water. All right, I've tortured you enough, you poor little thing. You think we can get them back in the
Oh, yeah,
box?
it's not moving fast. Is that it? Is that the right?
That says paper, no. Drag, here. Come on,
Oh, yeah.
back on the cold. I will release him at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The wasp was forming a nest on the bottom of one of the pots of a hanging basket I'm putting into the plant sale. There were already 6 females tending that nest. I took 1. The other 5 are flying around going, where the heck is the nest? But they are also currently in my garden collecting prey, and I saw them drinking water when I watered the other day. They are healthy and well, and they probably will form a new colony soon. Hopefully not under the same pot. Already did that one. And there goes my.
Beth, we're gonna ask everybody to give you a big round of applause.